Welcome to this explainer. All right, let's dive right into a rain-soaked pitch in Switzerland on July 4th, 1954, because we are about to witness the climax of the most seismic shock in football history. Today, we're taking a cinematic deep dive into the 1954 FIFA World Cup. This wasn't just any tournament. This was the moment that transformed football from a simple contest of naturally gifted athletes into a high-stakes duel of analytical minds. I want you to picture the heavy rain, the muddy pitch, and the sheer, unadulterated disbelief in radio commentator Herbert Zimmermann's voice. He's watching a fractured post-war West Germany battle the absolute greatest football team on earth. After an agonizing 8-second pause on live radio, he just bellowed, "Call me mad, call me crazy," as the impossible began to unfold right before his eyes. To truly wrap our heads around the enormity of this moment, we really have to look at the giant standing on the other side of that pitch.
Section 1. The Invincible Mighty Magyars.
To fully understand how we got to that breathtaking moment in the rain, we first need to look at the undeniable Goliath of the tournament. Hungary's Golden Team, famously known as the Mighty Magyars, was a seemingly invincible machine. We are talking about state-sponsored professionals who came into this tournament riding a record 32-match unbeaten streak. They had just recently demolished England 6-3 and 7-1. On the flip side, you have West Germany. They're fielding amateur contract players from regional leagues, representing a country still reeling from the complete devastation of World War II, and they had only just been reinstated to FIFA. It's the ultimate David versus Goliath scenario.
But Hungary's true weapon wasn't just raw talent, it was their tactical blueprint. Pioneered by their coach, Gustav Sives, contemporaries at the time called it socialist football. It was basically the precursor to total football. They used Nandor Hidikuti as a nominal center forward, but he played deep. And this brilliantly dismantled traditional man-marking because he would lure defenders completely out of position. That opened up all this massive space for absolute legends like Ferenc Puskás and Sándor Kocsis to ruthlessly attack. It was just a terrifyingly efficient system. Section 2. A tournament of records. Now, the Hungarians were an unstoppable attacking force for sure, but they weren't the only ones finding the back of the net. The 1954 World Cup in Switzerland was an absolute festival of fiercely attacking football. And the crucial takeaway here is this absolutely staggering number, 5.38. That is the average number of goals scored per match in 1954. Let that sink in. It still remains the highest scoring average in World Cup history, and it perfectly captures just how wild and offensive this era of the game was. Defenses were just completely overwhelmed across the board. And as you can see here, the Hungarians absolutely dominated the score sheet. Sándor Kocsis was playing on another level entirely, breaking records by netting 11 goals in just 5 games. I mean, that's an average of 2.2 goals every single match. This tournament also gave us the highest scoring match ever in a men's World Cup, which was a ridiculous 7-5 thriller between Austria and Switzerland. The offensive output was literally off the charts.
Which brings us to Section 3,
The tactical laboratory. So, faced with this unparalleled Hungarian firepower, West German coach Sepp Herberger knew he couldn't just rely on passion or grit to get by. He decided to play a game of 4D chess and turn the tournament into a high-stakes duel of analytical minds. Because of a pretty unique group stage format, West Germany actually had to face Hungary early on. And Herberger made a wildly controversial yet brilliantly calculated gamble. He intentionally fielded a reserve squad, willingly conceding a brutal 8-3 defeat. Why on earth would he do that? Well, by taking the massive loss, he protected his best players from fatigue, completely hid his actual tactics from the Hungarians, and secured a much more favorable path through the knockout rounds via a playoff against Turkey, which they went on to win comfortably.
But Herberger's absolute mastery wasn't just tactical, it was psychological. Away from the pitch, he isolated his squad in the quiet, peaceful seclusion of the Belvedere Hotel on Lake Thun. This created what famously became known as the spirit of Spies. He kept his players totally away from the media and forged this incredibly powerful, unbreakable team bond that really laid the emotional groundwork for their ultimate underdog campaign.
Section 4, Innovation in the rain. But here's the thing. Tactics and teamwork weren't the only weapons West Germany brought to the final. They literally had a technological breakthrough on their feet, courtesy of Adi Dassler, the founder of Adidas. Prior to this, players were literally hammering nails or metal tacks directly into their leather soles. Dassler provided the West German team with a revolutionary innovation, exchangeable screw-in studs. So when the pitch at Wankdorf Stadium turned into a muddy, waterlogged bog on the day of the final, the Germans simply switched out their studs at halftime for longer ones. This gave them vastly superior traction and explosive acceleration, while the Hungarians were slipping and sliding all over the mud. It was a real game changer. And that mud was caused by a torrential downpour, a weather event famously dubbed Fritz Walter weather. See, the West German captain Fritz Walter had actually contracted malaria during the Second World War while serving in the military. Because of this condition, he played his absolute best in wet, cool conditions. So when the heavens opened up on July 4th, it set the perfect, literal stage for the German captain and his technologically superior boots.
Section 5. The Miracle of Bern.
Armed with strategic patience, a unified spirit, and of course, superior footwear, the West German underdogs walked into the stadium to face the mighty Magyars one last time. And guys, this match was sheer chaos from the kickoff. The invincible Hungarians looked set to absolutely humiliate Germany all over again, going up 2-0 in just 8 minutes through Puskas and Czibor. But the Germans didn't collapse. Max Morlock struck back in the 10th minute, then, incredibly, Helmut Rahn equalized by the 18th minute. As the game wore on, that tactical stamina and the stud-enhanced grip really began to show. Finally, in the 84th minute, Rahn unleashed a fierce shot right into the bottom corner. West Germany 3, Hungary 2. The miracle was complete. Now, as an objective explainer, it is absolutely vital to note that this match remains shrouded in intense controversy even today. In the 87th minute, Ferenc Puskas scored what looked like a sure equalizer, but it was controversially ruled offside, a call that fans and historians have debated for decades. Furthermore, following the tournament, several German players fell ill with jaundice. Historians have debated whether the team was given vitamin C injections from unsterilized needles at halftime, or, as a 2010 university study posited, the banned stimulant methamphetamine. The sharp scent of camphor was also widely noted in their locker room at the time. We aren't taking sides here, but it's a fascinating, heavily debated layer to the history of this legendary match. The fallout from that final whistle was intensely polarized. Over in communist Hungary, the shock defeat actually sparked riots in the streets of Budapest, and the players had to be virtually smuggled back home under armed escort. It was a completely disastrous end to the Golden Team. But in West Germany, it was the exact opposite. It ignited an unparalleled sense of hope and rehabilitation. The phrase "Wir sind wieder wer," meaning "we are somebody again," echoed across the entire country. It allowed a fractured, humiliated people to feel a profound sense of national pride that had absolutely nothing to do with their recent dark political past. German football legend Franz Beckenbauer really hit the nail on the head when he summarized why this victory was about so much more than just a trophy. He said, "Suddenly Germany was somebody again." For anybody who grew up in the misery of the post-war years, Bern was an extraordinary inspiration. The entire country regained its self-esteem. It was, quite literally, the psychological rebirth of an entire nation. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder today. How did 90 minutes in the rain alter the trajectory of 2 entire nations forever? The Miracle of Bern proves that sometimes football isn't just a sport. It's a tactical laboratory, a showcase for technological innovation, and a remarkably powerful geopolitical catalyst that can actually change the course of history. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the history behind the game.